Nola, did we settle on
Synergy.
Synergy?
It's synergy. It can't be Psy-energy.
I think it's Synergy. Because it's
As
psychic
a kid, I think I called it
power.
Synergy.
Yeah, that's how it is in my head, and it's probably wrong, but that's how it will always be.
Welcome to New Game Plus. This is a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name's Dustin.
My name is Kenny.
I'm Nolan.
And this is episode 469. And it is a director's episode!
Hey.
Question of the week is, what gaming crime do you regularly commit?
Save's coming.
Same.
But, like,
Same.
That I commit. There's a lot of crimes that publishers and developers commit.
Ooh, but we're not talking
We're
about
not talking about them. So I was like, I don't know. I'm pretty vanilla, and like I follow the rules. I don't really exploit games. Like if there is a known cheat or something, I don't like doing that.
Neither.
So Save's Coming's my answer because I totally do that in any game that lets me do it.
Do you do it as bad as I do sometimes? Like, okay, so we're a retro gaming podcast. Each week we're playing a new video game, a new old game. And there are some very difficult games.
No, whatever you're about to say, no, I don't.
I'm doing a quick save, quick load every few inches of the screen.
Absolutely
so,
not,
like,
I don't do that. That's ridiculous.
That's what save scumming
That's
is.
a huge crime. That's like a federal crime.
That's
ridiculous.
That's a go to prison.
Yeah. No, I don't do it that bad. I just do it. I like maybe more than an average person, but not every few inches.
Kenny, I know you're not going to admit to this one, so can I give you yours real quick before you tell me the one that you?
Sure, but I'll tell you if you're wrong.
Well, I think Kenny skipping dialogue is a crime that should be persecuted because. He even does it for like voice acted ones. So like it's people that have worked hard and they've given their blood, sweat, and tears and voice for the love of the craft, and then you just like skip.
That is a crime, Kenny.
I don't just skip. I want the story, but I'm gonna read it and then move on.
He's pleading not guilty.
You don't want the story.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's pleading
not guilty.
You act.
All right.
Not
what are you guilty of?
By fast reading skills. Okay, I'm generally a purist, so not many. I definitely like will save scum sometimes, but not bad, and mostly like we've got an old game and like I need to beat it for podcasts, but I'm not good enough on my own, so like this is how we're gonna get through it. I don't feel bad about that. Honestly, that's so common I don't even consider that a gaming sin. I have been known to like hunt for a really good start in a game like Civ 6, the like regenerate the map like over and over until I get something that's like really interesting or really juicy or just like like worth it. So that I'll do. And sometimes I will not finish a game that I should.
Okay, those are great answers, Kenny. I think we're all guilty.
Nolan,
of that
you also. I don't know about me. I finish what I start, but Nolan, you also start a lot of games.
You didn't start Rebirth.
I did.
You didn't finish Rebirth.
Yeah, because it sucks.
So there's no way it sucks.
I do use in-game exploits, so I not necessarily out of game exploits, but if it is in the game, I feel like that is absolutely fair game. Even when it's not intentional. So like when Tears of the Kingdom, remember that item duplication exploit that everybody was using before it got worked out of the system? I used that.
We were so mad at you for that.
Absolutely.
Old Diablo 1, you would have been such a duper.
In game. If it's in game, the developers put it there for me to use.
No, they
didn't.
That's not how that works.
Use it.
It slipped through quality.
I think my biggest one is, and I think that maybe even y'all might not say it's a crime, but I think others would. I use a walkthrough for virtually every single game that I play.
Okay.
And that's not new here.
It's a misdemeanor.
Getting pulled over and written a ticket.
I've changed my mind on this, Dustin. I fully support your choice to do that, and I dip in that a lot now as well.
Yeah.
especially RPGs.
You know, I say for virtually everything, and I do. No, for everything I do. Now it might be a different type of walkthrough.
Yeah.
So like right now, I just started Assassin's Creed Shadows. I'm not using a walkthrough in the sense of like guiding my every step, but I am gonna look up, you know, skill progression and try to see like what's the optimal for some of those things. So like I'm always using something. So write me a ticket.
Sometimes that's us. Sometimes we'll play a game and you're like, guide me.
Oh, that's
please."
fun too. Yeah.
We're your misdemeanor.
Ooh, you're my misdemeanor.
We change our names
and
to Brady.
Nice. It took me a moment.
That was a
big
stupid
jump,
joke.
That was
Okay.
stupid. But I'm glad that we all have some crimes that we commit, and I don't blame anyone for any of that. I'm happy that you're enjoying the game the way that you like the game to be played. Jin, you know that you can play games however you like.
Okay.
No.
You need to leave the country.
No.
Again.
Genuinely.
Okay.
It's not forced.
It's so bad.
Like in our retro game of the week, Golden Sun, The Lost Age.
Overview.
First things first, we'd like to welcome our director, Mystic, to the show. Mystic, we're so glad you're here. Take a moment, introduce yourself to our NGP community. Tell us how you found out about NGP in the first place, and then, if you would be so kind, tell us why Golden Sun, The Lost Age was your selection.
Well, I found it on, I was just looking up podcasts on Spotify, just kind of seeing what was good. And I found yours. It was, ironically, the first Golden Sun episode. And so I'm like, oh, I'll listen to this. And it seems pretty good. But Dustin, you weren't there, so I listened to more episodes, and here we are.
It was only good because I wasn't there, and then it got worse.
Yeah.
when you
No.
listened-
No.
No.
And then so wait, is that also your answer of why you chose The Lost Age? Because you were interested to see what we thought about the follow-up? Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Okay. And I'm assuming then you had a GBA, you played this game in or around the time that it came out. What's your history with Golden Age and The Lost Age? Sorry, Golden Sun and The Lost Age.
I've only played the first one growing up as a kid.
Same.
And then when I realized it was a two-part game, I was like, oh, cool, I'm disappointed. So then much later, when I was like 2016 or something like that, I was like, oh, let's pick this up and let's just finish it and let's see. And I finished it and it was great. I liked it. So
Would you say Golden Sun and or The Lost Age are one of your favorite games of all time? I just need to know how, nice or mean we need to be today.
I'd say it holds a special place in my heart, but it's a game. I like it. I like it a lot.
We'll find out today if it's a game. Nolan, you got a little bit of information about The Lost Age?
Yeah, a little bit. So this game is, yes, the follow-up to Golden Sun on the GBA. And I like what Mystic just said, calling it a two-part game. Yes, it's a sequel, but this is in many ways part one and part two. They kind of come as a pair. But it was its own release, which was in 2002 on the GBA, like I said, and that's only a year after the first one. So it was obvious they had this in mind when they were releasing this series. It was developed by Camelot, and it was published by Nintendo. Camelot did Shining Force. We played that on the podcast.
Do you know what else Camelot did?
What? I do.
They created Everybody's Golf.
They did.
No,
wow,
they didn't.
Nolan just his opinion of them just went way up.
No, I've already.
They
told
didn't
them
do the
I
one
said-
that we played, but they created the franchise. So they did the very first
Gotcha.
one, which is
Okay.
very funny. And then afterwards, I found all this out this week. They then went into heavy sports stuff. So they did Mario Golf, Mario
Yes,
Tennis.
They did a lot of Mario sports games, including Mario Golf on the GBA, which I love that game.
I'm sure it's so great.
It's so good. It's like
That's
RPG
so
style.
funny to me, because the sports games feel like the farthest type of game from RPGs generally.
Sure.
So it's just funny that they would like do such drastically different kinds of things as developers.
But they did have their origins in RPG with Shining Force, that Shining series. I don't think even Shining Force is the first one. Like I think that I believe that there were some earlier Shining games. Like so they had a history with RPG. So it wasn't
with fantasy.
It shouldn't have been too much of a surprise when they returned to it and did a few more with Golden
They got
Sun.
range. They can do both. They can level you up, and they can also have you swing a club.
Nice.
So Kenny and I, did play the first one. Kenny, do you remember which episode that was?
147-ish.
Wow.
Is he right?
I don't. Wait, you don't know? Golden Sun was 143, which is
close enough.
That's impressive.
Close enough. 147.
Wait. Why did hold on?
Why were you not
sorry? There? No. Why would?
Why did he?
What did you
the
do
ballpark.
this week that allowed you to be that
right.
close?
Instead of just knowing. So you did know.
Or hold on. He did know, has it written down, but didn't want to seem too pompous, so he gave us a few away.
Why do you nerf yourself?
No.
Yeah. Why?
That's so stupid. Okay.
Yeah, no, I looked up the game to remind myself of Nolan and I's consensus on outcome as part of my prep for this week. So I saw it in the Retro Master list.
You kind of saw the
so
number.
I knew about where it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
It was 6 years
a long time ago.
July 30th of 2018 when this episode released, and it's one of the very few that I was just not a part of.
No, I know. It was devastating for me because I had experience with that game. With The Lost Age, however, I've never played it. I've only played the first one, so this is my first time. But you didn't play the first one, so the GBA actually had a bunch of good RPGs. You might be surprised to know that. A stronger catalog than you think. You had some Mana games. If you remember, the early Final Fantasy games 1 through 6 also came out on the GBA. Those versions to this day are still really solid, even with the pixel remaster existing. And you had the Golden games, and a lot of people love this series. The story
and Fire Emblem.
Fire Emblem, sure. You had 2 Fire Emblem games on the GBA.
Okay.
The story is a continuation of the first game, up to the moment, which I think is really cool, actually. Your group of characters in the first game is pursuing the bad guys, the other group. One of them consists of your childhood friend that's gone rogue. He has these 2 new creepy mentors that want to bring alchemy back to the world of Wayard, which is magic, but kind of this ancient sort of thing. And so to do that, they have to go around to these lighthouses, these beacons, and light them. So that's what you're doing in the first game. And the whole, the climax of the story takes place at Venus Lighthouse, where they're trying to light it. And that's where you pick up, except you pick up as Felix, the childhood friend gone rogue, and you get his perspective now, which I think is such a brilliant way to do storytelling. Because in your mind, in the first game, you're thinking they're the bad guys. Why are they doing this? What? But then you get to see motives, and you get to see behind the scenes, and I think that's just great.
Now, I have a clarifying question. So, as you said, I didn't play the first one, and I wasn't able to play the first one this week. Just get that. It would be great if I was able to clear the first one and clear the second in a week. Yeah. Wasn't able to do so. But I did watch some summaries of the first one, and I want to just make sure that I'm clear. So, it's the bad guys of the first game that want to bring back alchemy, right? They are wanting to unlock the seals at each of the 4 lighthouses to bring alchemy back into the world. The heroes overheard that. The good guys overheard that and are trying to stop that. And so in this sequel, as the perspective shifts from Isaac to Felix, you can. You're seeing their motivations, their reasons behind it. You're understanding that it's not just black
evil.
and white good and evil, but there's a morally gray, but you're continuing with the story. So like the story didn't conclude in the first one. Like they didn't even go to all the lighthouses.
First one,
Is that
no,
what
the first one just kind of ends, which is also strange for an RPG.
Dustin, I think you would have been so frustrated by that. I think you would have liked a lot of things about the first one, but the fact that you get like literally what feels like halfway through the story and then it's just like credit screen, I think would have driven you crazy.
Yeah.
Unless you had like known, okay, there's more game and I can just pick it up and go. But like if you'd played it when it came out or whatever, just because of how you are.
And it only came out the next year, so I guess fans wouldn't have had to wait long.
Sure.
Mystic, when you played the first one as a kid, like, did it take you by surprise that the ending ended and it wasn't ending? Or like, did you know that there was going to be a next one? Like, how did that work for you?
I was actually kind of surprised because I did not know that it was a 2-part. I thought it was going to be cool. Let's move on to this next lighthouse or whatever, and let's just keep going. And nope, and
yeah,
I was a little surprised. So
I wonder if they did market this as a duo game, saying like the Lost Age would come next, or if people had no clue. Because like you're saying you didn't know, but like I wonder if some people knew. Maybe.
I think there was marketed because I'm pretty sure I might have read somewhere where it was too small for the cartridge, so they had to split it up between two.
Okay, so so like created as a 2-parter.
Yeah, like they probably wanted this to be one game, but the story they were telling was too big for the cart, and they were like, we can't cut we don't want to cut any of this, so they decided for the 2-parter.
I wonder if at the end of the first game, it was like it said to be continued, or something along those lines. So probably people that even beat the first one knew.
NGP is basically a book club, but instead of boring old books, we play retro video games. And it would be impossible without you, our community. Every week, we hang out in Discord with you, and we talk about new and old video games. Discord is the hub for all things NGP. In Discord, you can talk about the game of the week that we're playing for the podcast. You can talk about retro finds that you find at the gaming store. Or you can talk about hobbies, if anyone even has those anymore. All you have to do to get involved in the community is go to discord.gg/newgameplus and get plugged in with our ever-growing community of retro gamers. We'll see you there.
Gameplay.
Golden Sun: The Lost Age is part 2. So it's a continuation from the first game, meaning same largely. And anyone can correct me if I'm wrong in this episode because I did not play the first one.
Go ahead.
But same gameplay systems, largely same graphics. There are some updates there. If you played the first one, very little is going to shock you outside of the story, but very little outside of the gameplay experience and what you're looking at, and all of that is going to shock you. There are 11 new djinn, which we'll talk about, for each element. 11 new djinn for each element, so a considerable amount of new djinn. There's 13 new summons, but all of the gameplay, the battle systems, even the magic in and outside of battle, the puzzle solving, it is a continuation of the last game. So much so that at the beginning of this game, you can put in a password, or hopefully a better way, because I think it's 3 pages of password.
It's super long.
It's crazy. Because it's to carry over some of the information from your Golden Sun save. At the end of Golden Sun, you can save your progress, and then you can carry that over to Golden Sun 2. We'll just call it that. So I doubt it carries over everything, but some of your levels and equipment, even and
pretty much everything.
Choices.
I didn't know how that worked because it's not the same characters.
Not the same characters,
and I didn't look into it enough. But
so it's, spoiler alert. I can answer your question a little bit, but it's a little bit of a spoiler.
I do know
later.
Yeah,
later in the game, your party. Again, it's an old game. We don't really care. This isn't a big surprise. The 2 parties rejoin. You get to play with the old party, and at that point, you're like, oh, this import that I did has everything. Inventory, like the full state of your characters when you left the game.
So you won't see
the
really transfer immediately. It takes
Yes.
it takes a while before that comes into play. But I mean, it's funny that it's so many characters. I was kind of surprised by that. Seems excessive, but I think that's cool to have on a GBA cart. Like you would see that later on like home consoles for like Mass Effect, carrying over the saves through the whole series. I always enjoy that because it feels like it makes it feel like a true progression, like it is a part 2. But even if you put that in, this game does a good job of kind of starting you out, weak, or like you would start in a new journey, and then you progressively get stronger. Now, lore-wise, Felix would be considered more advanced, maybe more like learned in this way of magic and in combat, but like it's still gonna be like starting a new game and progressing and getting stronger. But like what you're saying, Dustin, same assets, same gameplay. I tried to look critically as I played this week for the differences. There aren't any. It is, if you didn't like the first game, sorry, you're not going to find anything in the second game that makes you go, oh, that's cool. I'm glad they did that. It's the same thing.
And to some degree, they account for the fact that this is a continuation of the game. You get a fairly long, pretty elaborate retelling of the first game's story in a like scrolling text screen at the beginning of the game to catch you up on the lore part of the game if you haven't played the first one or if it's been a while and you've forgotten. But once you get into the game, there are a couple of exceptions where you like find your first djinn and it like gives you the opportunity to learn a little bit about how they work. But generally speaking, generally speaking, it assumes that you already even know the gameplay systems. And so things like using your Nola, did we settle on Synergy?
It's synergy. It can't be Psy-energy.
I think it's Synergy. Because it's
as
psychic
a kid, I think I called it
power.
Synergy.
Yeah, that's how it is in my head, and it's probably wrong, but that's how it will always be.
Kenny, you're so quick to say yeah when someone's talking, thinking that they're agreeing with you. He said a different word than you said. So
he said Synergy. Which is what I said.
But
if you're putting another E, I don't want to have this conversation, but if you're putting another E between Psy and Nergy,
I'm not.
Mystic, how do you say it?
S-Y, Psy.
I say Synergy.
Thanks.
Or something like that.
It's I say now Synergy because I think that's what it is.
But
it's definitely a weird word.
But the P is not that silent.
I think the P is silent.
Synergy.
Okay, but that's the magic system for this game. Yeah. And yes, it doesn't. Aren't there? Trying to remember. Aren't there tutorials and stuff that you can go and look at, but it's not necessarily giving it to you actively.
A few, but I think the first time you have to like do a world interactable using your Synergy. I'm not even going to say that word anymore because I don't want to.
We're going to say
using
it
your magic.
Yeah, using your magic. I was like, I don't even know if like people would know how to do this if they hadn't played the other game. It just felt a little like straight into it, like just keep doing more of what you've been doing.
Yes, but like some of that is assumption that they played the first one, but the other half of that assumption is this is a bare bones turn-based RPG. In like the sense of the word turn-based. So there aren't any surprises here. It's not a battle system that has some complex underlying thing. You've got physical attacks, you have magic attacks, and you have summons. I'll call them summons.
Yeah.
In battle.
I think they call them summons.
Huh?
I think they call them summons, so I think it would be a good thing.
So
yeah, something like that.
So they're assuming that you're playing this game knowing the genre and knowing what to expect, and even if you don't, like you'll learn in one battle. So
the generalities of it, I do think the way that djinn work, and I know we're just now getting there, is I'm still trying to figure that out a little bit. Let me try to set this up, and then Mystic and guys, you can tell me if I'm understanding this correctly. By the way, djinn are the Pokemon of the Golden Sun world that you can do various things throughout the world to capture. Once you capture them, you can equip them to a party member, and then they increase your stats, and they give you added abilities to use inside and outside of battle. But how you use them in battle is so unique, and I don't know if I love it. So you equip them, and then the power you use their power in battle, a greater attack, a double hit, something like that. Then the djinn goes on standby. While the djinn is on standby, you can use a summon related to that djinn. If you've got multiple party members with multiple djinn on standby, it could proc an even greater summon. And then after a certain amount of time, I don't really know, the djinn goes off of standby and back, or after you use the summon, it goes back into battle, and that loops all over again. Is that right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly how it works. And
Pretty much.
yeah, the way they've balanced that is the recovery time of a djinn. So you talked about the time that it's on standby, which unlocks arguably your strongest moves.
The summons,
the summons,
or the djinn.
The summons,
Okay.
depending on where you are in the game, they're very powerful, especially those combo ones. But then when they are in, then after that they go into another mode, which is called recovery mode, and then and then it resets. The cycle resets.
That's weird.
It's weird. It's super weird, but I do like it because it provides sort of a balance on the system. So that you can't just face roll every battle. You have to make choices. Do I use my djinn right now on this like mid to weak enemy, or do I save it for later in the dungeon when I know there's going to be a hard fight?
What's also super interesting is that when you use your djinn, then the bonus stats no longer apply until it's back into. It's just weird, man.
All right, Dustin. I got two things. So I kind of thinking about it. It kind of reminds me of the junction system from Final Fantasy VIII.
Oh yeah,
junctioning.
The magic system I really love from Final Fantasy.
And you can actually summon rush. So you can go in your djinn whatever, and you can set them to standby. So then when you go into battle, you can then just summon rush off the bat, and it's just so.
Yeah.
So there's
you can set their modes outside of battle. Which I knew.
Standby.
Which I knew.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There's some strategy there. It's not as simple as go into a new battle and then you have a list of options. You can kind of like think ahead with that. It's if you don't know the game super well, it's hard to do that, to do that. But you'll quickly learn like which ones are really useful to you and which ones are good utility for you. Something we didn't mention about the djinn is that so the magic system, like any fantasy game, has a elemental affinity system, and the djinn are affiliated with those different ones. So there's
Earth, Wind, Water, Fire.
Yeah,
right?
Mars,
I think
Jupiter,
that's what it is.
Venus, Mercury, and they're associated with wind, water, fire. So, and so that's another thing to keep in mind is like the, the weaknesses and like how you want to leverage those. But it is a weird system, and I'll give it to you. The whole like different standby and recovery modes are a little weird, but I stand by what I said. It's a very straightforward RPG in that sense, in the battle sense.
It is. There's a little bit of unwieldiness that also comes outside of battle with the djinn system as well.
This is what I love about the
because
game.
Because you're interacting with your world in lots of really interesting ways. There's lots of world interactables that are often like puzzle-based, but sometimes just like regression-based. And having the right powers on your characters to deal with the obstacles that you're dealing with is something that you are going to have to figure out. And sometimes that means swapping in djinn that you didn't plan on using otherwise. There's just a whole sort of management of that piece of things as well that also just feels, I don't know, a little menu heavy, a little bit sort of clunky. But I'm generally with Nolan. I think it's an interesting system. I wish it could be refined a little bit, but I find it fascinating.
Kenny, did you recognize that you can set some of your abilities to quick buttons? So your L and R, it's only two, can be like a quick synergy use.
You can, which helps, but
Yeah.
there's places,
Sure.
I think, especially as you get further into the game, where you still need to do some swapping and managing and all of
I
those
was
things.
in menus a lot this
Yeah.
week for sure, because you have to, because you're using them, like we said, outside of battle, to solve puzzles, to traverse. For example, just one example, right? And I don't even remember the names for it. Mystic, you probably would, but like there are going to be these poles that are sticking out of the ground that you'll have to use one of your abilities to smash the pole down into the ground so that you can move through the space that pole was previously in. Another one, there is a clearly like there's a rope on one side of this cavern, and there's a nail or a pin on the other side, and you can use one of your abilities. A big hand, mystical hand comes and grabs that rope, carries it across, ties it so that you can make your way across.
Lash is that one. Yeah.
Lash.
Yes, you get that one relatively early.
I bet the other one's called Pound.
Yes, you would be correct.
It's very creative. And then, so there are all sorts of ones like that. And it starts fairly basic, Lash and Pound, and they get a little bit more, because there's a lot of these abilities.
Sure.
And
There's tons.
Yeah. They get more and more complex, I guess.
You're moving items, you're reading people's minds.
That's fun.
You're, transporting in interesting ways around the map. I think there's one where you like move into the sand and then like move with it and pop back out. All kinds of crazy different abilities. Huge variety and tons of different types of utility.
Yep.
Some for like story or like puzzle reasons. The like mind reading one I think is especially fun as a different kind of take on interactions with NPCs. But lots of just like ability to do unique and different kinds of puzzles and have really sort of more robust world interactions than sometimes you get in a lot of these types of games. And I found that piece especially really rewarding for me. I loved figuring out some of these interesting dungeons and like the secrets and how to get there and ways to traverse, and like you're hopping down stuff and hopping up stuff, and like when you figure that stuff out, it's rewarding. You're like, like the puzzling elements here are just, I felt like they were really well done.
Yeah. So the utility aspect of using djinn outside of battle is one of my favorite things about the first game, and I'm glad to see them do it here. And you just said it, Kenny. What it allows them to do is create more interesting dungeons than you typically get in a JRPG, because you are solving puzzles, and most of them are very simple. In fact, one of my critiques about both games really is that I wish the puzzles were a little more complex. Late game, they get a little more complex, but not anything crazy, not like anything to really talk about. But it's just like the dungeons have more character because of this, and it was always fun to like get to a new one versus like, oh, here's just another like dark cave I'm gonna walk through and get in a bunch of random encounters. There's actually some thought you have to put into to like go get that chest that you see, but you don't know how to get to yet until you explore a little bit. And I really enjoy that.
And we joke, but there's this sort of Metroidvania-ish thing that they can do a little bit too, where
a little bit, yeah.
You need to unlock something, so you have to go back to a previous dungeon and do some like further exploration if you're trying to like get all of the djinn or whatever else. Where they can like give you options for exploring the world and interacting with it in kind of unique ways, which is also something worth pointing out. This game is, and most RPGs, especially of this era, tend to be, but it's relatively open. There's certainly some like story beats that are pretty gated, but you have a little bit of option for exploring and the order in which you do a couple of things, and the world is fairly big, and I feel like for the most part, they do an okay job of giving you the information you need in the game to figure out what you're supposed to be doing and which puzzles you're supposed to be completing. But big sprawling like RPG worlds like this can sometimes be a little overwhelming. You've always got guides or whatever if you do get stuck
I got the
there.
guide up.
I don't use guides. Mystic. But before we leave the puzzles, because that is a huge part of this game, right? I mean, I was gonna say it's 2-part this game, but it's kind of 3-part in that like it's heavy story. There is like Nolan's first play. I would imagine
It was
you had to
35
cut
minutes.
half. Yeah,
had to cut
you had,
a
but you
lot.
had to cut so much because it is so much exposition.
Yeah.
Maybe too much, and that's coming from a guy that loves story.
I read all of it.
I don't believe you.
Yes.
And then there's 2 other parts. So it's the story. There's the combat, which is we kind of talked about it. It's turn-based, ATB, like active time. I mean,
No, it's just.
just
I
turn-based.
think it's just your standard run-of-the-mill. Choose a turn or choose your commands, and it finish. It just does its thing, and that's pretty much
It's like a
combat.
hidden speed stat.
Pretty standard.
The djinn is what sets it
Yeah.
aside. The speed stat, which most of these games have, and the there's one other. I don't know, but yes, a fairly standard combat system. And then the puzzles being the third element
Yeah.
of that. So I wanted to, before we left the puzzles, I wanted to know if you enjoyed the puzzling, aspect of this game. There are a lot of them.
There are a lot. They're okay. It's puzzles. I don't particularly enjoy puzzles, but it kept me engaged long enough to finish it. So
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it too. Like I wanted a little more from it, but I can't get too upset with them because they are one of the few companies to have developed the game where the puzzling kind of plays more of a central role in the gameplay. Like in a JRPG, which usually that's not the case. Like it's mostly just combat and I don't know, walking.
Well, I wanted a little bit less of it. Like I think they did in quantity. I think quality-wise, I think the puzzling was pretty fine.
Did it remind you of Zelda? Because I think that's where I'm coming from. Like I think it reminds me of my love of Zelda puzzles.
And maybe so, but and you talking like that, and you even, I know you didn't maybe intend to do it, but saying, besmirching the just walking around the dungeons. That's what we do in Final
that's what
Fantasy.
we do. I'm fine.
And
with it.
and so I don't hate that. I don't mind some puzzles. There just seemed like that's a large. I said this game is 3 parts. It's puzzles is at least a third, if not a lot more, of this game, and so it felt like. At one point, I was like, "Can I just get to the next point? I want to get through this cave. I don't want to do 13 more things to be able to get out of here."
And it's worth noting that between all of those things, long, elaborate storytelling, interesting character dynamics, world interactions, including some like optional bosses and extra unlockables if you're trying to like get all of the djinn and complete everything, puzzles that take time and you have to figure out, and just like the size of the world, this is not a short game.
Well, and random encounters, like
Right,
a
and
lot of random encounters.
all the time.
The old school
Like,
kind.
Each of these games, even though this is one game in 2 parts, is longer than a lot of other full games are. The entire Golden Sun, everything, if you're trying to play through both games and be a completionist and do it all, is going to
40,
take
50?
you a really long
Oh.
time.
You don't have the figure? I'm
No,
guessing 40 or 50. Is that right, Mystic, or is it even
Maybe
more?
even longer.
it depends. I think there's a lot more in game or just a lot more extra side content, especially after a certain point. After you get the boat, then once that whole area is open, then there's just tons of places you can go. There's tons of
a lot of
side
side
options,
quests,
and just there's yes.
I just looked up on
How
how
long
long
to
to
beat,
beat. Golden Sun, the main story for Golden Sun, 22 hours. The main story for Lost Age, 31 and a half.
Wow,
So
that's a lot of game.
Right,
on
and
the
that's
GBA.
main story. Like there's
great.
bonus
Right,
stuff
That's-
on top of that.
for
This
sure.
is
That definitely
huge.
sounds about right.
yeah, that's a lot. And like you just said, Nolan, for GBA, like
Yeah.
that's comparable to PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2
Yeah.
RPGs.
Right. That's kind of how I felt playing the first game back in the day. I was like, dang, this game's long. But then again, it kind of ends randomly, and you're like, well, there's a lot of game left. One other thing I wanted to talk about before we move on is the characters, because you said this is a very story-heavy game, and it is, and that's what we like for our JRPGs. And coming from the first game, I always thought Felix was like mysterious and like the cooler one, and when we finally get his perspective, I'm just curious what everyone thought about him. I like Jenna and I like the party of characters that you have. I don't know, but I think Felix is cooler when you don't know anything. when he's just like the mysterious dude.
Isn't that the truth, though?
I know.
You know, when you meet someone, they're not near as
You
cool
never
as you
meet
thought
your
they were.
heroes. Yeah.
Right.
So what do you guys think about the cast of characters?
I don't really have the comparison
Sure.
because I didn't play the original.
Then that's an interesting perspective.
I just, unless you want more, I could just leave it at, I would imagine that I would have taken to the original cast better.
That tells me a lot.
That doesn't surprise me.
But maybe not.
Yeah, I'm fine with these characters. I'm with you. I think generally like the other sort of cast better, but like they're both fine. I do feel like a couple of the story beats here are a little bit sort of cheesy, a little bit just like plot twist, like we're just going to tell you a thing and then fix it. Kind of cheap. Like they just do a couple of things to make stuff work or undo some elements of story that was like implied in the first game, and then you find out like things worked very differently in ways that kind of cheapen the story, that I wish they could have found a way to avoid some of that. But overall, lots of storytelling and the characters are interesting, so no major complaints, but like yeah.
Mystic, first group or second group?
Both.
Oh, nice answer.
And you get that, right? Like that.
Yeah,
you get that in this game because they do end the story. Although I guess there's another game, but not part of this
combo. Yeah, but it's
combo.
years after, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, you do still get to get some of those characters that you love from the first game, which I think is great. But yeah, they're okay. They're okay.
One thing I have noticed, I thought it was weird, is they made Felix the silent protagonist in this game, so Felix does not speak at all. Versus Isaac, it was it was kind of jarring at first, and it's like, oh, okay.
Oh, so the protagonist in the first game speaks, but the
in the second game,
protagonist in the second game doesn't. Is that what I'm?
Yeah. So they basically just switch roles.
Yep.
It's weird. It's kind of jarring at first, but you get used to it.
Yeah, that seems jarring.
Yeah, and so maybe that's what I'm feeling is they have to color the dialogue differently from Jenna's perspective and from Alex and Sheba, and so then I don't know. It's I think what it is I'm used to these newer games giving the protagonist a lot of character and a lot of voice lines, and so going back to this world where they used to do the silent thing is strange.
Aged.
Not hard to play this game if you want to today. I believe a re-release that was fairly recent, even
2024.
That's not as recent as I was thinking. I was like, oh yeah, that was the beginning of this year. No, that's the beginning of last year, and
Still recent.
time is problematic. On like Switch on the so you can hop on their online store, grab a modern version of this game on your today consoles, and play it easily if you want.
Yeah.
I forgot they did the GBA stuff on their online thing.
Before that, it was on the Wii U Virtual Console too. So.
I owned it there actually.
Oh, that's so good.
I've bought these games 60 times by they release it.
You're the person that
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
Mystic, you said it was around 2016, I think. You said when you played the Lost Age for the first time, were you playing on GBA? Were you playing on some other way?
No, so I ended up picking up a GBA cartridge of it online. So when it came in, that's what I was playing on, was that physical copy.
Yeah. The best way to do it, honestly.
And when it released, it was positively received by critics and audience alike. IGN ranked the game as the 8th best GBA title of 2003 and the 22nd best GBA title of all time.
8th in that year? What came out that year?
Right. 8th doesn't sound great, but 22nd of all time on GBA sounds really good to me.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just saying, like, 03 had I think Fire Emblem also was in 03.
It had some big games. It probably lost to a Pokemon game. There's all sorts of GBA games that are S tier. I mean, I think you could argue this game is S tier as well, but like there's things that it doesn't surprise me that it's further down on the list then.
It has sold over 680,000 units now. So, now. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're still counting the numbers, but so it did well.
Yeah.
People seem to like this game, like this series.
They wanted the rest of that
especially-
story.
Right.
Yeah, that's the main thing. If you played the first one, you're going to be left dissatisfied because you haven't finished.
Yeah.
It does have a sequel, which we had mentioned earlier. There's the Golden Sun from 2001. There's this game from 2002, and then Dark Dawn for the DS. Actually, so we switched consoles in 2010, and I think
It looks
Mystic,
so sick.
one, have you played it? Two, isn't it? I think it's Felix's son.
It's Isaac's son.
Isaac's son. Okay.
So I think it's the first party's children
I gotta play
Oh,
that.
that's fun.
is what it is.
It's set,
And there's a
yeah.
couple other characters, but
And have you played it?
yes, I did. It was okay.
Oh no.
There are some things in there. They added points of no return. So at some point you can't go back, and if anything you missed, it's gone for good. So
My guides are important, everybody.
Completionists
Yes.
do not like that one trick.
It looks fantastic.
yeah.
I gotta check that out.
But yeah, set 30 years after the two original games. Seems fun.
But you know what else looks fantastic?
You're gonna say the graphics?
I'm gonna say that.
It's the GBA, of
It's
course.
the GBA. This game is
It's got games like Crash Orange or Spyro
Oh,
Orange
stop it.
on it.
The interesting thing that they do in this game graphically, I've always thought it was interesting, is it's small, but I like it. When you enter battle in this game, they kind of do this like faux 3D camera pan behind your party,
Kind of shocking.
which is like it's nice. It's small, but it's like they didn't have to do that, and I don't know. It makes it feel really cool. Now, there are some flaws graphically with the game, especially in that battle mode. It looks a lot different than the top-down exploring mode. They try to do a lot of like detailing, both with the backdrop and with your characters, to like make it realistic. But what it ends up looking like is like their faces are just insanely pixelated, and a lot of it's insanely pixelated. But it has a charm to it that I really enjoy. In fact, I think some of the things they get right, like the hair, I think looks really good in that perspective, and like some of the animations of the capes, like billowing. I think it's great. But it is a very different look than the top-down view, which I thought is interesting.
Yeah, the art and animations all pretty well done too. A couple of the summons, like the later elaborate ones, are really cool looking. I'm with you, Nolan. This is a nice looking game.
GBA is good for that. I do think that faux 3D thing is interesting. I've got to give them that, because even during the battle, the camera is panning. So like it might be behind them, it might be beside them. That's a lot of extra graphical work to do, but you said it. It's pixely, man, and because they're going for more of the like real life proportions in that,
Sure.
rather than the art that they're doing the rest of the game with. So it is striking. Final Fantasy VII Original did a version of this, because what you see on the overworld is different than what you see in battle, for sure. It's not fair to compare the two, but
It's not fair to compare.
You're also playing it on a big screen, and gotta remember this
No.
You,
This week I played on my
you
3DS.
did play on a handheld. I forgot.
Yeah.
Most of the time, that's
Sure.
an easy thing to fall into with these old handheld games. If you hold it back here and look how big the pixels are, it doesn't feel like quite as egregious. And I don't know. I like this. The look of this game enough that I don't want to say anything negative. But of course, it's not perfect.
I do think the animations is where it shines, though. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the things I
And the
love is when critical attacks get their own animations,
Oh,
and
baby.
in this one, with the weapons that you equip, every once in a while it can proc a critical attack, and they're epic. Like something critical just happened, and they
Yeah.
look really good. And that's just one
Like
example.
sparks and fire particles too. Like they do a lot of extra animations in the battle, and every spell, has its own unique animation, which is fantastic. Some of them are simple, but I appreciate the fact that they look visually different. And the frame rate looks good during all that too. So yes, they sacrificed a lot of the fidelity, the clarity for some of those animations, and I give them that, because what it ends up being is this game has a very unique look. No other game looks like Golden Sun. You know it when you see it, and it adds so much to what this game is, in my opinion, especially when you revisit it modern day.
Soundtrack.
Fantastic.
You take it, Mystic. Actually, you take this one.
Honestly, I like I love it a lot. Just you kind of just listen to it, and I don't know, you can just play and you can just listen to it and not be turned off by. It just sounds really, really good for a GBA game, I think.
Yep.
I love it. It sounds fantastic. There's not much for me to say. I
was
like it.
gonna ask you if you liked it better than the first one, but it's kind of a dumb question because
It's the same.
yeah, it's well, there's some I
Same
think
game.
there's some
I'm
same
saying
tracks.
same game. Like it.
But yeah, like obviously there's new ones as well, and it's just a continuation. And like the project together, that soundtrack is probably top to bottom insane. But yeah, I thought it was great. I think it adds a lot to the different areas you're in, especially in the dungeons. I really like the themes in those dungeons. Just enhances everything.
I don't know if y'all noticed, but you get some character-specific themes as well. And they went so far as to do it even for characters that you're playing alone, not for very long. Like, you're playing Jenna.
Yeah.
She gets her own theme that is played, that's
good.
her deal, even though she's only, kind of the, like,
The tutorial
primary
character, yeah.
Yeah, character that you're playing for just a little while.
Nice. Yeah.
If you want a cartridge for your GBA like Mystic has, it's going to be $33 used or loose. Did you pay about that much back in 2016 or a lot less?
I think I might have paid a little bit less.
Nice. But if you want a new one, it's quite expensive.
Yeah.
$215.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
But there's a lot of them, right? So people just want to keep it? I don't know
they're
what the
hoarding them.
problem is there.
Popular game?
Final thoughts.
At the end of each and every one of our episodes, we give our final summarized thoughts on the retro game of the week. I'll begin. We'll conclude with Mystic. I said earlier, I played on my 3DS while traveling this past week. And that was fun. I don't know if in a while I have played a handheld game because I needed to. So like, but that is still fun to do, and I kind of miss that. I played over many sessions, and I'll be honest, I had trouble connecting with this game. In part, guys, it's picking up a book halfway through, or reading the second book in a series before reading the first. So part of it is on me, and I cannot believe that this is one of the games and series that I missed on the podcast. It's a travesty. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with this game. It's in many ways a traditional JRPG. They do some unique things here with the djinn system. With the heavy reliance on puzzles, which aren't necessarily my legacy experience with JRPGs. And so on top of that, I couldn't really connect with the characters or story this week. And maybe that was also in part due to the not having the connection to the first game. But as fine as the world and the systems were, just the story and the characters were kind of bland for me. But here's what I'll say. It's what's already been said on the episode. If you liked the first, guess what? you're gonna like the second, because it is certainly more of the same. If you didn't like the first, then you're probably not gonna find anything new here to capture you in the second. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think your sort of landing place was my starting place. If you liked the first one, and I think most of our audience will generally, I know everybody's different, but like pretty popular game, then you're gonna enjoy this one too. It does have a few little foibles, but like finish the story, play this one. Overall, it's a good game. Interesting story, solid gameplay. The puzzles really, really do work for me. So one of the things that's a hurdle for you is an attraction for me. Some of the storytelling gets a little cheap, and a few other places where I feel like it could be even better. But I love that it's on some top of lists because I think it deserves it. So, I did say $5 says Dustin goes back and plays the first one? Question mark.
So you owe me?
Dang.
No. I'm saying, like, will you now?
Okay, got you. So you owe me?
Oh, no. Come on.
Nolan?
Yeah, so it is more of the same to a fault, maybe.
Perchance.
I almost said that. I'm not going to lie. The first one I adore. A lot of that might be nostalgia, maybe, but I do think that game's genuinely really solid. Like we said and mentioned earlier, like, this is a tried and true turn-based RPG. They don't really try to, like, innovate on that outside of the djinn system, which I think is great. Simple and great. The second game it's almost like, in my mind, I don't want to call it a part 2 or a sequel, because it is just more, it's just a continuation of that first game. So, like, I don't know, maybe I was just like hoping they would do something a little more unique, different with this one, just to keep it fresh. I don't know if they need to do that. If you really love the first one, you'll love the second one. And yeah, I think it's fantastic. I love the Golden Sun games for what they are. They are very unique in look and in just how you play, even though it is a turn-based RPG. So yeah, it's a great game.
All right,
Well,
miss
I
it.
really don't have much to say. You guys pretty much hit it on the nail on the head. It's fantastic. I like it a lot. It's very simplistic, which is great. So if you're not got a whole lot of time, you can just to learn a bunch of stuff. You can just pick it up, and it teaches you a little bit, and you're good to go. I think it looks good. The visuals, the sprites are actually kind of cute. I like the sprites a lot, and the portraits look fantastic. Other than that, it's fantastic. I like it a lot. I keep saying that, but it's true.
It's fair.
Well, thank you for sharing Golden Sun: The Lost Age with us. Those are our thoughts. Let's see what our community thought. On our YouTube poll, 55% said yes, Golden Sun: The Lost Age is worth playing today. Only 4% said no, go play something else. 41% have never played it before.
That's odd to me, because I would think that you would immediately play it if you beat the first one.
Part of me just thinks that handheld is always going to be a little bit more
Lower.
never played before.
Absolutely.
And sequels are always going to be lower too, because
for sure.
you have to play the first one first. Which one of us didn't. And then many from our community played along this week and wrote in. Radmax said, "It blows my mind a bit that none of the guys have played this one before. I played it on the Switch and immediately jumped into it after Golden Sun because they're essentially one game, and there was no way that I was about to stop at the cliffhanger at the end of the first one. The additional djinn make this game incredibly customizable, and the continuation of the story is extremely well done. The transfer passwords were interesting, definitely innovative, but I'm very happy we've moved beyond that now so that I never have to input a 300 character code to move one game into its sequel ever again. Definitely gets NGP from me. Unreal pair of games."
See, I'm not going to do that. Even if I had the data to carry over, I'm not taking time to put in 300 characters.
I do think if you had like a link or something, there's another way to do it that was easy.
Yeah, you can do it from one GBA to another GBA with a cable link.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But inputting, that's wild.
T. Morris said the second in the series continues everything that made the first so great. Simple, clean, and vibrant pixels mix along well with the bouncy and diverse soundtrack. The game has 2 flaws. Characters are a little too long-winded for me, and the puzzles suck. Hit or do a thingy, backtrack 2 or 3 screens, repeat 18 times. I'm putting it away at roughly 1/3 complete. It does not respect your time. Give me a cut on 10% of dialogue and 20% faster puzzling, then we're cooking. NGP, but barely.
See, I disagree about the puzzles. Kind of hard, actually. I don't think it
You're a puzzle
doesn't
boy,
waste
Zelda.
your time. Like, that's the dungeon, though. Like, the partial backtracking sometimes that you have to do is just, that's a dungeon.
It's a long game. If someone says I wish they'd tighten it up a little bit, I'm not gonna argue with them.
Nolan, you agree with the long-winded dialogue?
Oh, yeah. I think the characters are a bit flat in general. That's my critique as well.
Garlisle said, when Golden Sun first came out, I couldn't get into it. But that was back then. Everyone still raves about the series, though, so I have to at least try again. Well, unlike a lot of old beloved RPGs, this one does have the mechanical depth to be decent, though not exceptional. The somewhat more interactive dungeons are okay, if not as strong as Luthia 2 or Wild Arms. Still, that'd be plenty enough to work if there was a story that intrigued me. But so far, I feel nothing for these characters or this rather generic world and tale. I just don't get it.
A lot of people will struggle with this, I think. The story side of it. Yeah.
Again, though, if the first one connects you, like this one is going to be everything you wanted, I feel like. And then finally, Rustifer said, when this game released, I was excited to help Isaac and the gang stop the bad guys from global synergy cataclysm. And my jaw dropped as we got Jenna, Felix, and Sheba with some change of heart looking to carry the bad guys' baton. While the mechanics didn't change, there was enough of a refresh of classes and multi-djinn summons to keep me searching every corner. And it's a good thing to enjoy the world when you have a fetch quest gatekeeping sections of the game. Does the dog want a scarf or a small turtle? Golden Sun and the pursuit of its soundtrack brought me in the first place to NGP. So for that reason alone, it's gotta be for me.
Shout outs. That is something we didn't talk about much. The classes that are in this game based on which djinn you have equipped, and I think that adds a lot of fun to the game for me, but that's a whole different thing that we didn't talk about.
Well, there's no reason to jump into that now, but that is a pretty robust system.
The djinn is what make this game so unique. I really like the djinn system.
Golden Sun brought Rustifer, Golden Sun brought Mystic, and I believe that Golden Sun brought a few other people to the community as well. So hopefully, The Lost Age, this episode, will bring even more people.
It's the soundtrack theory. I think people love gaming music, and they accidentally find us.
It's actually when I started hosting with you guys.
You were searching for a soundtrack.
I was searching for a podcast to
Civ ambience to sleep to, and then
and then I found you guys, and just the rest is history.
Thank you for sending in your commentary on the Retro Game of the Week. You can do that each and every week to ngppodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to include your thoughts as a part of our episode next week. But for now, we're going to set aside Golden Sun: The Lost Age, and we are going to randomly select to find out what game we'll be playing for the next 7 days. Randomizing now. We have played a game from this series before.
Can be good.
Back on episode 128, we played the first game in the series. This is the fourth game in the series.
Oh, weird.
Okay.
It is an action-adventure game.
I like that.
That came out in 2008 for the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC.
Huh?
We're getting a lot of recent games nowadays.
We are.
I don't know.
I thought you were about to say PS2.
Yeah.
No, sir. Nolan, I'll give you one more, and then I think you'll have a good guess.
All right.
Maybe not, actually,
Okay.
now that I think about it. It was developed and published by Capcom.
I mean, I don't know. That could be... I don't know.
I might have an idea.
Could be so many things.
Well, in this game, you follow Nero, a young man possessing demonic powers who is on mission to stop the series' main character, Dante.
Oh.
Hold on. Is this kind of like... Are we playing the bad guy in a sequel? Is that what we're about to do? We are playing for the next 7 days Devil May Cry 4.
And 5 just recently came out a few years ago. There's a big gap.
For real?
Yeah, I have it on Steam. I haven't played it yet. I'm glad I haven't because I'll get to play this first.
Oh, well, find a copy
Whoa.
of... We haven't played Devil May Cry in a minute.
I mean, what was it? 120?
128.
Yeah, it was forever ago.
Yeah, it was 7 years ago.
Yeah, I haven't touched the series since then, so I'm kind of pumped, actually.
It's fun. Almost to the date, April 8th of 2017. So,
Wow.
All right. Find a copy of Devil May Cry 4 and play it along with us this week.
Join us in Discord by going to discord.gg/newgameplus.
We want to say thank you to those of you who support us on patreon.com, including, of course, our director for this week, Mystic. Appreciate you coming on and giving us an excuse to play this game that you love. We want to say a shout out to our other director level supporters as well, Brojim, Siegfried, and Tins. We want to say welcome to our newest patron supporting the show, Dungeons and Drams. And
Bill.
to our many producer-level supporters, including Alex and Marlene, Anton and Ben, Cody, Craig, Dagany, Dan Willett, Donner Party Bus, Garlisle, Hallex, Harold, Hey Brother, J. Robert, Jake, Jordan, Justin, Clint, Levi, Maximum, Megatroid, Miss Muso, Not Enough Dog, Radmac, Retro Man, Sagen, Sasser, Scotty, Shane, Shauna, Snake Medic, Super Hybrid, Swaggy, Tacofish, Psycho Mantis, Thomas, Turtle, Unbedavable, and Zion. You guys are the best.
Mystic, would you like people to find you online, and if so, where?
You just find me on Discord. You can just find me on Discord
Under the
in
name?
this channel, or just
Under the name Mystic.
Mystic.
Nice. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. All of those links are in the show notes. Listen directly on any podcast provider of your choice. Make sure that you subscribe so that you are the first to get new NGP episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. Our episode artwork was created by our friend Dave. Our video episode was edited by our friend Dylan. Our audio episode was edited and produced by our friend Dan Willett. Join us next week as we play Devil May Cry 4. That'll be fun. Until then, I'm still the bad guy?
I'm still solving so many puzzles.
Final Fantasy 16 is basically Devil May Cry.
Mystic, who are you?
I am the silent protagonist.
And this has been New Game Plus.